To save all his friends, Inojin, who was previously underestimated by some fans, finally shows his true potential and ends the invasion in an incredibly epic way. And the most important part, after Code had been missing for over a year, this chapter finally reveals that he has been hiding behind Bug's tree. So yeah, I'm Nim without the E, and this is the leak for chapter 33. But before that, please help me reach 100 likes or 1K hype points. Thanks, guys. Previously, we saw how the situation in the middle of the battle turned chaotic, especially when Sarada and Kawaki collapsed. Mamushi, who was almost completely defeated at first, instead became even more ferocious after splitting its body until it reached 1,000. But fortunately, despite the increasing number of Mamushi, they didn't attack Sarada and Kawaki. Instead, they stayed focused on their true target, and that is Ada. But before that, at this point, Boruto is genuinely worried and extremely anxious, especially as he wipes the blood from Sarada's eye. Even though Sarada's condition is critical, Boruto confirms that she's still breathing and her life isn't in danger. However, one thing was certain. Boruto was very concerned about the damage to her eyes caused by using her MS. And perhaps given Sarada's current condition, Himawari, with her Biju Chakra abilities, is the most suitable choice. I mean, if in chapter 12 we saw how Hima healed the wound on Sarada's arm caused by Jura's Biju bomb, then at this point, Himawari tries to heal Sarada once again. Just by touching Sarada's forehead and channeling her chakra into her body, Himawari confirms that she has repaired the damage to Sarada's blood vessels, and most impressively, she also stops the bleeding in Sarada's eye. However, even though this is something positive, unfortunately Himawari can't guarantee whether there will be any long-term effects on Sarada's vision. And yeah, this is the most exciting part. When all the Mamushi turned around and walked toward Ida, Damon, who is of course a knight for Ida, stood alone, preparing to fight and protect Ida. And with that expression, Damon directly challenged all the Mamushi to fight him alone. But before that, there's something pretty serious. Inojin confirms that the situation is very bad, and he feels that they're going to be defeated by Mamushi. And as we know, in the final panel of the previous chapter, Koji was shown with a flat expression without any reaction at all. And it turns out that was because Kashin Koji was somewhat concerned about the situation, especially since in some of the previous chapters he had explained to Inojin about the mind-body transmission jutsu that Koji knew from the future. And the bad part is, since then, he hasn't received any new information. In other words, given this situation, Koji doesn't know what will happen next because at the very least, Koji can't control his ability and can't use it as he wishes. And unfortunately, various developments from the future have occurred since then. And the most unexpected part, perhaps something that could be seen as a disruption in that ability, is when the vision of Mamushi's arrival overlaps with Kobu's visit. Because no matter what, Kobu's arrival should have already been predicted by Koji. Yeah, that's just how it is. And next, this is the crucial part. So far, there's been no confirmation, or perhaps more accurately, no information about Koji other than regarding Shikamaru, Boruto, Ida, and Inojin. Is that right? Meaning Koji's identity is still a secret. And Amado, as the creator, has confirmed that he doesn't know if Koji is still alive. And in this chapter, it seems there was a communication leak that allowed Amado to find out through Inojin. But whether that was actually based on a leak or not, let's discuss it in the next video. And continuing from the previous situation when Inojin asked about the future seen in this case, Koji explained once again that he doesn't know what happens next. In fact, Koji also concluded that seeing the future means breaking that future as well. And because of that, they finally have to face the situation. Damon is alone, facing them one by one while protecting Ida. They completely ignore Damon and focus only on Ida. But fortunately, since the Mamushi are focused solely on Ida, Boruto can still provide support from behind to help Damon. And in fact, it turns out the Mamushi's bodies are truly in terrible shape, almost like trash, especially when they swarm around Ida. But even though we see how Damon is destroying them, of course, that's not enough. The number of Mamushi keeps growing, and Damon will likely get exhausted eventually. In the midst of this situation, Mitsuki and the others join in to help protect Ida. However, seeing how the situation is getting worse, Boruto tries to ask Shikamaru for guidance, or more precisely, what kind of strategy they should use. But before that, continuing from the previous case, especially from Koji's confirmation about explaining the mind-body transmission ability that Inojin learned earlier, Kashin Koji explains that the future can change just because of a single, small action. In the future, he usually sees Inojin Yamanaka only learns the mind-body transmission technique, after many people die while fighting the Mamushi. But now, since Koji told him earlier, Inojin learned it faster, and some people like Himawari Uzumaki and Ada are still alive. But the problem is, even with those changes, their current situation remains dire. That's why Inojin protests. If this is supposed to be a better future, why are they still stuck in a situation that's almost just as bad? He feels that the changes made haven't truly given them a chance to win. They've merely shifted the suffering into a different form. But just as Inojin was about to snap and yell, especially questioning what use that jutsu had in this situation, he slowly realized something. Inojin recalled what Amato had said in the previous chapter about Mamushi possibly possessing a collective consciousness. And perhaps some of you don't quite understand the meaning of this panel. In short, at first, Inojin was frustrated. He felt like the new jutsu he'd learned was useless in a chaotic situation like this. There were too many enemies, and they were on the verge of losing. But then he remembered what Amato had said. Mamushi likely possesses a collective consciousness, meaning all those clones are actually connected like a single massive mind, not separate individuals. From there, Inojin began to realize, if he could control just one, maybe he could influence them all at once. Well, on the other hand, Koji already understood where this was heading. He explained that the power of 10 Paths prescience isn't meant to directly change the future, but to provide crucial information. He had seen a similar situation in another future and knew there was a way to deal with it, especially now that Mamushi has become much less intelligent, acting purely on instinct, making it easier to manipulate. But Koji intentionally didn't give the answer right away. Why? Because in another version of the future, it was Inojin himself who came up with this idea. And in the end, after all of this, Inojin finally understands and knows exactly what he has to do. So yeah, continuing the situation in the middle of the battle, especially when Din and Ida are surrounded by all the Mamushi, Damon uses his ability to break out of the encirclement and flies away with Ida. But even then, the Mamushi are faster than Ida in the air. Fortunately, Boruto once again provides backup from behind by slashing down all the Mamushi that approach them. Meanwhile, Shikamaru is trying hard to come up with another plan. But what makes things worse is when Inojin suddenly cuts off communication with the entire team. And yep, a shinobi we underestimated, he truly became the MVP. Using a summoning technique, Koji used the same method to bring Inojin right into the middle of the battle to protect everyone. Through a reverse summoning jutsu, Inojin finally joined the battlefield. And without further ado, Inojin asked Shikadai to stop one of Mamushi's movements and used mind transfer jutsu to transfer his consciousness into Mamushi's body. And the epic part, through Mamushi's body and consciousness, Inojin used a strange, unknown language to control all of them. As a result, the Mamushi that were about to close in on Ida and Damon suddenly started acting weird and moved somewhere else. And now, all the Mamushi are under Inojin's control. Damn. And that's not all. The craziest, most insane part of all, through the Mamushi's consciousness, Inojin shouts at Damon, declaring he'll destroy both of Damon's eyes. As a result, all the Mamushi present are instantly obliterated. But unfortunately, the same fate befalls Inojin. Instead of using the Mamushi's consciousness to trigger the Damon's reflection ability, Inojin ended up sacrificing his own eyes as well. Nothing was left, and they truly won. But fortunately, thanks to Himawari's chakra channeled through the Biju chakra, the bleeding and destruction of Inojin's eyes seemed to yield positive results. The bleeding stopped, but unfortunately, we don't yet know if Inojin's vision will return. And after all the Mamushi had died and their bodies slowly vanished, the Togodama Mamushi was finally revealed and formed into a Togodama in the air. And yep, without any hesitation, Boruto immediately grabbed it. And next, contrary to our prediction that Boruto would destroy the Togodama Mamushi, it turned out he intended to return it to the tree where Bug's body was trapped. But before Boruto actually brought Bug back to life, Code, whose location we'd been predicting all along, turned out to be hiding behind the claw mark on Bug's tree. What will the next surprise be? Let's analyze and predict it in the next video while we wait for the official chapter to be released on the 20th. If you enjoyed this video, help me reach 100 likes or 1K hype points. I'm Nim, see you in the next video. Bye bye, Data Bio.